So
Uh,
so wifey's watching those murder porn channels where
murder
they,
porn?
yeah,
What?
you don't know of this murder porn that they show on these channels like ID. What's the other channel?
It's called murder porn? What is that?
It's basically all they show are episodes of like crimes that have happened where a wife or a husband gets murdered, and they chronicle the whole thing. And
So she's doing research.
yeah, I always tell her she's just trying to find the perfect way to kill me and get away with it. But yeah, so she's
Get a couple tigers.
watching this murder porn, right? And it's kind of, I'm doing other stuff, but I can hear it. And apparently the guy, his wife died or whatever, or he murdered her. I don't know, whatever. But he, I guess, had a new chick and was engaged to be married within 6 months. So the question arose: what's the appropriate time to mourn a spouse's death before you start dating, and what's the appropriate time to pass before you marry again?
I mean, I don't know. That's subjective, man. Like, depends on how. Like, if your spouse died a tragic death, like I would assume like it would take you some time to get over that shit. Like you weren't expecting it. No, if your spouse has cancer and like slowly died, like I'm sure like you already prepared yourself for this, and you know maybe you guys have had that conversation like, hey, when I move on, I want you to move on with your life, so you may be able to move on quicker.
Fuck
So
that. Fuck that. I told her if she was married in 6 months, I'd hunt the fuck out of her. And not like, not ooh boo spooky haunting. I would haunt the fuck out of her. I would do like crazy type of shit, like just to fuck with her. Like right before she was gonna sit down on the toilet, I'd flip up the seat so she fell right in the water. Like, fuck that. 6 months? I don't give a fuck if I've been dying for 8 years. We get married in 6 months.
Yeah, but I mean, if what if you were in hospice the whole time? Like, maybe she met someone along the way while you were in hospice. She wasn't getting no dick from you.
Why? Why is she?
Like
Why is she getting?
someone, and like
Why is my dick not? Why does my dick not work?
I'm saying, if you're in hospice, if you're like sick and you're dying,
You think there's
like
guys?
you
You think there's guys that are in hospice that are not listening to ASMR jerking off right now?
look. All right, so I'll give you an example. All right, so there's a guy that I know that frequents like my bar. And without putting his name out or whatever. So this guy, his spouse is passing, like getting ready to pass. Um, she's been in hospice for maybe a year and a half. Like this guy's not messing with any other women, but he's not getting any action.
He shouldn't be.
Like, no,
He's
I'm
got
saying not from his spouse either.
he's got hands, right? Right?
Okay, but I'm saying like after his spouse passes on, he can't like move on with his life.
I never said that. Well, fine.
No,
You're arguing for it. What's the appropriate time there, guy?
I think it's situational. I think it's situational. I
Come
think
on,
if
that's a cop out. What's appropriate time? All right, use your two most extreme scenarios.
I don't fucking know. That's going to be an individually based thing.
Come on, give
Like,
it a fucking opinion, you pussy. Get off the fence.
no, because so okay, I say 3 months. 3 months is an appropriate amount of time.
If it's a slow death or a sudden death or both.
No, if it's a fucking slow death, like 90 days is enough time.
All right, and what about sudden?
If it's a sudden death, I mean, it depends on the person and how well they grieve or what the circumstances were. If your fucking loved one's like murdered, like you may
How does it
process
matter?
that.
Why does it matter how they died? Like your wife is no longer there, or your husband. Like they're gone. They're gone forever. What, like, if they slipped on a fucking on a piece of ice and cracked their head open, that makes a difference on how long you're supposed to mourn them? You fucking moron.
No, I absolutely think like that affects how you mourn them. Like if
What?
something like I don't know. Look, here's my mentality about it. If it's expected and you know that it's coming, like you have time to prepare for that. You have time
I
mentally
get
to
that. We
accept
already
and,
we
and
already
come to terms
passed
with.
that. We already passed that. I asked you what was your time for an unexpected death.
I already told you for an unexpected death. That depends on the individual. That depends on the situation.
Of course it does. We're talking hypothetically here, asshole. This isn't like the golden rule, and we're gonna set it for like for the country, and everybody has to follow our
Yeah,
rule.
but I'm not going to say, okay, the proper amount of time is 6 months. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it depends on the individual, it depends on the situation.
God, that's such a pussy answer.
Maybe dude's fucking wife gets murdered and he meets a hot fucking detective and falls in love with her, while trying to investigate fucking wife's murder. I don't fucking know.
I disagree.
Like,
I
and they
disagree
bond on
totally.
some shit.
I no, dude. There's some old school shit that still to this day, um, kind of should be followed. And like when our grandfather died,
So,
our
so
grandmother wore black every day for I don't know how long. Like old school mentality, and like I think there's something to be said for that type of behavior. And I'll tell you this, if my wife did die, I would not be dating in 90 days, no matter how she died, whether it be slow or fast, because it would truly affect me. And this guy was about to be married in 6 months. 6 fucking months. Like there should be laws against that. You should not be able to marry again for at least a year.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I I agree that there should be a certain amount of time of grieving, and like I do agree, like the way with my grandmother processed my grandfather's passing, the old school way of like, wearing black
If you
and
fucking die, I'm gonna
like
throw a party.
being respectful is the right approach. But on the same token, like if my grandmother at some point met an older gentleman that like made her happy and put some joy back in her life, I wouldn't be upset about that.
It's not up to us.
No,
You
so
think?
you think my grandpa's supposed to be like, "Hey, what the fuck? I'm chopped liver?" Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what he'd do. Yeah, and he'd hunt the fuck out of her, just the way that I told Marty that I would hunt the fuck out of her. Because I'm just like Grandpa. But whatever. Anyways, moving on.